Welcome back to the stock portfolio update videos. Currently, my two stock portfolios sit at a combined value of over $102,000. We're actually just under $103,000 after the market did a small rebound in the last day. As you can see, that's made up of the $56,496 in my stake portfolio. I also have my Vanguard portfolio, which has around $46,442 in it currently. Overall, it's been a rough recent time for investors, and that hasn't excluded me. You can see my stock portfolio is currently up around 16.44% in my Vanguard in my stake portfolio, but that's also after I sold some positions, so that's obviously affected my how much I'm in the green, because I've then reinvested this money into new stocks or existing stocks, and now I obviously have a higher average share price, but I still locked in those gains. In my Vanguard account, nothing's changed. I did recently invest a little bit more into VGS. So VGS is Vanguard's International Shares ETF, and that's a position that I've really been growing. I was buying shares at around $136 and $135 per share, so it's pretty good. At that price, I could really justify it, and I've built my position up to 228 shares, which has been quite good for me, and it's now well over $31,000, and my goal is to get it to over $30,000, which is quite good. Now my next goal for this portfolio is to get it to $50,000 in value. With the recent market pullback, it has made it a little bit harder, as I probably would have already been there if there wasn't such a strong retraction in the market, this pullback. But what this has allowed is for me to buy in more shares at a lower price. Speaking of doing that, in my stake portfolio, one of the positions that I have really been growing is Amazon. As you can see, Amazon, I have around nearly 6,000 USD in equity, so getting close to 10,000 AUD, and I'm up barely anything. So I'm pretty much flat. Actually, I'm down 0.26, but again, that's because I've been buying in more and more and more. So my average share price has jumped all the way up to 196 when it wasn't like close to the 160s, I believe, at one point. But that's because I've been buying more shares. So if you look at the last month, the stock's pretty much down 10%. In the last 6 months, it's pretty flat. But in the last week, it's down 1%. So the stock did have that big fall, like many big tech stocks did in the last month. But if you look at the last week, it's been a bit more steady. If you were really good and you bought in around this 190, you were quite lucky. But yeah, this is the time I'm using to buy into Amazon, as I believe it's a quality company, and I believe it's been heavily discounted from the previous highs that it was trading at around $240 a share. So I believe I'm still getting the exact same quality company. I'm just getting it for a much bigger discount now. So I'm planning on using that to just keep buying in at these prices and build out my portfolio like I did in 2002. So one of the stocks that I've sold out of a bit to make sway and make a bit of cash for me was Apple. So Apple's had a great year, like you can see, up 27%. Even after its fall down, I believe it was up close to 40% at one point. But the stock has been quite expensive, trading at a 34p ratio, which is similar to Amazon, but I do see better growth in Amazon. And I managed to lock in some gains. So I'm still up 35% on the remaining shares I have, around 5.2. And in total equity, it's around 1,138, where this used to be a position that was in the 4,000. So with this money I sold out of, previously I'd put money into Google, Amazon, things like that. And I plan to, that's what I want to do. When there's a position in my portfolio that I believe has done quite well, and maybe I can take a bit of gains, I plan on doing that, because that's something I wish I had done with Microsoft. So if we have a look at the last year for Microsoft, there was times when Microsoft stock was trading close to $470 a share. And you can see it's all the way down now under 400, near 390. And that's really affected my last year's portfolio return. With the stock being down 8.8%, it's dragged my average down. The stock did do very well in 2023. But yeah, this last year has been very bad for investors as it's heavily underperformed the market. I classify that a lot with my own mistakes of not buying in at a good time. I pretty much sat on this position and I never really looked into the price. Whilst I still believe in Microsoft going forward and I don't want to sell at this price, I think I would have probably done a lot better if I had just taken a bit of the gains off the table when the stock was trading so high. I'm sitting at around 25% in the green, or around $1,470, with an average share price of 314, so not the worst situation. One of the other stocks that I've been buying into is Alphabet, or commonly known as Google, and that stock has rebounded a little bit today, but if we have a look at the last month, like Amazon, it's down pretty much 9%, and in the last week is also down 1%, so it's been a real pullback. If you look at this stock and you compare it to Amazon, very similar trading as of late, with the run up and then it's come all the way back down. Like that, I have over $5,000 in equity, or 30.68 shares, and I'm also down around 1% because I've been growing this position more and more and more. Compared to the other big tech stocks, Amazon and Alphabet have both come down a bit, which means their PE ratio is also down. So looking at Alphabet's PE ratio, so it's price to earnings, it's only 20. So that's historically pretty low for many of these big tech giants, and it's actually lower than what the S&P 500 as an average was trading at. So it's been quite good, and I believe Google can still be a strong company going forward. Obviously, there's lots of worries around its search monopoly, but I think the company has a lot of smart people. It's obviously done the right thing previously. I think it can continue to innovate into AI and other places. I don't think search is completely going to be killed. If it is, I think it won't happen in the next short term. I think it'll be a bit more of a long-term thing, and that does give Google the ability to transition into other areas, such as Google Cloud's obviously doing really well, growing really well. There's lots of businesses, Waymo, which is a small part of it. They have all these good things going for Google, and the share price has really been hit recently. So again, I've used this as an opportunity to buy into a company that I believe in, because this company at $205 a share is pretty much the exact company it is now at $263. All that's happening is I'm able to get in at a discount. So that's one of the reasons why I've been investing in these two companies. I've done other videos on it as well, if you wanted to check those out. But other than that, all my other holdings have stayed the same. One of the holdings I have been talking about recently, potentially looking into selling, was VLC. So that's Vanguard's Australian large companies in ETF, but it has traded down so much. It was previously all the way at $86 a share, to the point where I'm not going to sell now because I would just be selling at a discount. I'd rather just wait it out, see how things go for a little bit, and then potentially I can use these funds, as I've mentioned before, to like a house deposit or other things. I do get a strong dividend through the ETF. I'm not a dividend investor, but I plan to reinvest all my dividends, and I'll just use that to continue buying into other stocks that I believe in. So if we have a quick look, you can see here is my Excel spreadsheet, which kind of shows it a little bit better on how my portfolios are weighted. With my American portfolio, the goal is to keep 50% in Vanguard's VOO index, which just tracks the S&P 500. You can see it's a bit smaller now because of these recent buys into Amazon and Google. It's only around 47%, but I will be able to build that back up. In terms of my Australian portfolio, it's around 67 to 33%, so almost 30 to 70%, with the majority being in international shares. A good thing that I noticed, when the majority of the market got hit really hard, there's less volatility in my Vanguard ETFs, which is quite good as well. Obviously, I won't get the same super growth that I can maybe get when I individually pick stocks in my stake portfolio, but it does help with volatility and kind of being a bit more stable. As you can see down here, I haven't updated this just yet because it's not the end of the month. I update at the very end of the month, but you can see basically the last day of the last month, I was sitting around 45,000 for my Vanguard account, and that's obviously higher now, even with the market pullback, just because of my deposits. And same with the stake portfolio as well, that's also in the green. So as long as I continue to dollar cost average in and I'm buying into quality companies, I think long term I should still be fine with my outlook. Again, I haven't updated my dividends since last month because I wait till the end of the month, but I do believe I received some recent dividends, so there will be some money going in there. Obviously for my Vanguard accounts, they're all quarterly distribution, so there won't be anything next month, but the following month after that, I'll be able to get more dividends. And again, one of my goals this year was to get over $2,000 in dividends, which I can potentially do if I just keep buying in and holding myself accountable. Overall, that's kind of how the portfolios are looking. I've invested a decent amount of money while stocks have been down. That's the reason why my stock portfolio is still over the $100,000 mark, and it is growing just because of the amount of cash I'm depositing in myself. Obviously my total returns have come down a lot, but that's also with me selling out of positions and moving money, so naturally that's going to come down with that. But I think if I just keep a long-term outlook, as I am still young, I have a long investing horizon ahead of me, I hopefully just use this as a good time to buy stocks and build my portfolio. But feel free to share how your stock portfolio is doing in the comments and what you're buying into during this market dip.